My name is Jaden Scott. I am a student at Texas Tech University. This is my message to Chancellor Creighton and the Board of Regents regarding the April 9th update to the December 1st Censorship Memorandum, titled the Course Content Oversight and Review Memorandum. Not only are professors not allowed to discuss the materials referenced in this memo, they also cannot talk about its existence out of fear of losing their position. Already, these new guidelines seem to be off to a poor start. I would like to start out by saying that just because you can't understand something or think it's silly doesn't mean that information isn't real, useful, and beneficial to others. I am a music major at your school, and just because you might not understand how chord progressions and song structure works, what a diatonic note is, or what it means to play in G Phrygian, doesn't mean the concepts don't exist and aren't useful to people like myself. Why do I say this? Because in your memo, you, the Chancellor, and the Board of Regents state that the teaching of programs centered around sexual orientation and gender identities are to have admissions frozen and degrees dropped. Yes, you allow certain current students to finish their degrees, but why do that if these ideas are so harmful, so pervasive that one of your first moves after becoming Chancellor in November 2025 is to remove those courses not 6 months later? If these ideas are so harmful, why allow students to finish their degree at all? I believe this is to prevent lawsuits from current students who thought Texas Tech would be a great school to attend and learn about their field of interest. This memo was not written out of concern for the younger generations. It was written to control them. Chancellor Creighton and the Board of Regents. Arcia Acosta, Cody Campbell, Clay Cash, Tim Culp, Shelley Sweat, Doug McVreeken, Don Sinclair, and Dustin Womble have all proven through this memorandum and the last that they do not value the integrity of their school and they do not value education. Devaluing the study of gender and sexuality is not academically motivated, rather politically charged and driven by ignorance. This memo repeatedly misuses the term gender to refer to sex characteristics in an attempt to place a foundation for their arguments. In Section 3, the first point says, instructors may not teach that gender identity is a fluid spectrum, endorse the existence of more than two genders, or decouple gender from biological sex as a factual or scientific baseline. In contrast, a definition of the gender spectrum by the Oxford Review says, gender spectrum refers to the idea that gender exists on a continuum, rather than in a strict binary of male and female. It recognizes that gender identity is not limited to just two categories, but includes a wide range of identities and expressions. This spectrum reflects individual experiences and social understandings of gender, acknowledging non-binary, genderqueer, agender, and other identities that do not fit neatly into traditional male/female classifications. Merriam-Webster has two definitions for gender, the noun. Number 1. A subclass within a grammatical class, such as noun, pronoun, adjective, or verb, of a language that is partly arbitrary but also partly based on distinguishable characteristics, such as shape, social rank, manner of existence, or sex, and that determines agreement with selection of other words or grammatical forms. Number 2. The behavioral, cultural, or psychological traits typically associated with one sex. In the usage guide for these definitions, they state, among those who study gender and sexuality, a clear delineation between sex and gender is typically prescribed, with sex as the preferred term for biological forms, and gender limited to its meanings involving behavioral, cultural, and psychological traits. In this dichotomy, the terms male and female relate only to biological forms, sex, while the terms masculine/masculinity, feminine/femininity, woman/girl, and man/boy relate only to psychological and socio-cultural traits, gender. Upon reading these definitions, it is clear that Section 3 of the April Memorandum is misinformed at best. However, reading the second point of Section 3 brings into question the writer's ability to understand basic social constructs and the difference between two terms. The second point of the memo states, the legal recognition of two human sexes does not prohibit the objective scientific instruction of anatomy, genetics, or endocrinology. Instruction on chromosomal variations, differences of sex development, and intersex biological conditions is expressly permitted. However, faculty may not use these biological conditions to advocate for or validate sociological frameworks of fluid gender identities. Breaking this down, the writer agrees that there is objective scientific instruction regarding anatomy, genetics, and endocrinology, which is the medical discipline dealing with the role of hormones and other biochemical mediators in regulating body functions and with the treatment of imbalances of these hormones, per the definition on Britannica.com. Also, the writer acknowledges the existence of gender identity as a sociological framework. Sociological framework is a broad term that encompasses any structure of rules, norms, and behaviors exhibited in a society. Claiming gender is part of a societal framework is exactly what many non-binary, agender, and gender-fluid individuals do. It has been clearly observed throughout our world's culture and history that how gender is expressed differs depending on the location and time period. The writer of the memo seems intent on claiming gender is inseparable from sex characteristics, which goes against basic dictionary definitions and our modern understanding of the terms. How can this be framed as an academic move when academia is already extremely clear regarding the matter of gender and sex? When countless studies have proven gender identities exist on a spectrum, why is Texas Tech University the only school to claim their Board of Regents no more than professionals? What does this mean, and why did I spend so much time talking about it? Because the people in charge of this school want to heavily regulate, omit, and even eliminate entire courses and degrees centered around topics the aforementioned Chancellor and members of the Board of Regents would benefit from learning. Not only are students having their university attack their courses and degrees specifically, but even those of us who are not studying gender or sexuality are negatively affected by these restrictions. My classes discussing music throughout different cultures and society have been restricted, and certain topics in art, like poems from a Palestinian woman, or even the discussion of Freddie Mercury and how being bisexual in the 80s affected his music and songwriting, are forbidden. These restrictions, with vague punishments, force every teacher at Texas Tech University to walk on eggshells in the classroom, having to censor themselves and what they feel is best to teach in order to comply and keep their job. Censorship does not improve society. Censorship in the academic realm does not give way to critical thinking, understanding, or increased knowledge. Rather, it breeds ignorance and a misinformed population who have been convinced by the leaders of their university they are actually receiving a complete and proper education. Take the political agenda out of my school. My semesters cost over $10,000 each. By issuing any sort of censorship into the classroom, you are devaluing the education of everyone enrolled. I did not start at Texas Tech University last fall just to be on track to graduate from the most censored public university in the United States of America. Allow our professors to follow the conclusions of academic studies, peer-reviewed research, and observable history without the constraints of a memorandum signed by a chancellor with no prior teaching experience. My goal in my studies at a university is to follow the truth, gain knowledge and experience, and meet people different than myself and learn new perspectives. This memorandum explicitly makes these goals unachievable in their truest form. Omission is a lie, and the students at Texas Tech University are being lied to through the censorship of topics regarding race, gender, and sexuality by a leadership team where only one member has any prior teaching experience. The courses at TTU are being sifted through the hands of corporate businessmen and ex-politicians who use scientifically outdated or incorrect beliefs to govern not only my education, but my classmates as well. To Chancellor Creighton and the Board of Regents, let the teachers teach what they deem is most effective, profitable, and useful for their students to learn. Thank you.